How about that, eh? How about that? It all came down to 100th of a second. And it wasn't Lando Norris, the person that we thought it was gonna be. It was my boy! But hey, I'm happy because the McLarens are on the front row. Everyone else, the closest was Max Verstappen, a quarter of a second behind. Around, I think, the second shortest circuit on the calendar. So that is saying something. But in terms of the winners and the losers and the meh, I mean, we've got to talk about the two McLarens right at the front, and it going down to that small of a margin. These two cars are definitely still on it after the summer break, and even though Red Bull have brought some new parts for Zandvoort, not that many, it still was not enough to get that little bit of a snifter of maybe the front row for Max Verstappen. Although I will point out, he is a winner in of himself for getting that car into P3, considering where we were in Hungary, where that car was, it was a miracle that they could even score at all. So this is a decent bounce back. I do think that Oscar Piastri did this at the right possible moment. And this was, and I will acknowledge this was all coming down to a little mini slipstream from Liam Lawson down the start-finish straight. Even being probably 3 seconds down the road was enough to give at least some difference in the air pressure, which allowed the Australian to get that little bit of an advantage into Sector 3. And even though he did get a little bit of a mistake into Sector 2, that still was enough by, again, 100th of a second. And props to Norris for having a dominant Friday and Saturday morning, so that's another reason why he's a winner, because he's still on the front row. There's no guarantee that he's going to get bogged down and fall down any further positions, and we're all going to win as well, because, well, these two are on the front row. Oscar's now pulled a blinder. He's managed to stun us all. And one thing is absolutely clear, that Lando does have the pace. I do think he is going to be very much in contention for the win to win his second Dutch Grand Prix. But the fact is, though, is that the teammate has really responded, and we all thought that on Friday it was going to be just a complete foregone conclusion that Norris was going to dominate and maybe get a 5 to 10 second advantage over the Aussie. Well, now, that's not entirely sure. It may come back down to the pit stops. And may I remind you from my video from yesterday, there are going to be split strategies here. It's now really going to be down to, well, who is going to maybe take a bit of a cheeky punt and go for a two-stopper, which might be the case considering that Pirelli have brought softer tyres than there were last year. Do you still go for a one-stop in the hopes that it might work due to the temperatures being that little bit cooler? Or do you decide to go for that two-stopper? Who knows? Well, we'll find out soon enough. And then, of course, how could I not talk about Isaac Hadjar in P4? And sure, it was only ahead of George Russell by 700ths, but look at what was at the front row. That was by 100th. Who cares? The French Algerian has responded really, really well to the momentum that the Kiwi teammate he has had in the last few races, where he was bringing in a truckload of points for the team, keeping their hopes alive of P6 in the Constructors, whilst Isaac Hadjar had a bit of a lean spell, and he admitted that he does need to cheer himself up a little bit because he thinks he's dragging the garage down for him being so, well, depressed. Well, I don't think he's depressed anymore. I think this was a Herculean effort to get that V-carb on the second row, even more so than Liam Lawson doing it in Austria at the Red Bull entity's home circuit. That was a Herculean effort from the French Algerian, and it came at the best possible moment. So Isaac himself, an absolute winner in my book. And quite frankly, I would say that Liam Lawson is a winner too. So in fact, both Racing Bulls are winners, because sure, Liam Lawson is in P8, but the fact is though, in all of the previous qualifying sessions, he was able to come up with something good and be convincingly within the hunt of the top 10. Yes, his teammate did best him ultimately, and it will cost him so many points, but hey, the Racing Bulls, who cares? Both of their guys are on song right now. They are working in harmony. And it's really making me think that these two drivers are going to be at this team for 2026, because they'll want to build on this momentum. This synergy that they've got, this contentment with the V-Carbo 2 can only improve the V-Carbo 3. And what the Red Bull group really needs right now is stability and harmony. This second team is doing the business which will serve any future Red Bull Junior driver well. So this is good foundation work that these two drivers are doing. Liam, with his response after the first two races of this season, and Isaac Hadjar for simply being good right from the start. So, there you go. And this was certainly a really good response to people thinking that, oh, Gabriel Bortoleto is the best rookie. Well, Isaac clapped back with this one. And then in terms of a winner, I would say Carlos Sainz is another winner too. Sure, it's only P9. Carlos Sainz can now hold his head high, and the break that he's had where he basically cut off every single access to the internet, stayed away from airports, as he said in the recent Williams podcast, this has obviously given him some little bit of a motivator. He's in Q3, he's in P9, he beat his teammate, who absolutely lost it on the radio, but we'll get to that in a moment. Sainz looked a little bit more composed, and this is probably music to his ears, and I'm pretty sure Williams will be really happy that their Spanish pick from Ferrari is now feeling that little bit more happy. I do think that this is a really big psychological advantage for Carlos to be the one within the top 10 already to maybe try and get past, I don't know, the Liam Lawson V car, or maybe if the two Ferraris fall off, then they might be easy pickings too. Or maybe it might be just down to Fernando Alonso behind him in 10th and trying to hold him off there. And that is a little bit of an unfortunate situation there with the Aston Martin. So I suppose really in terms of the or something like that, we'll start off with the Spaniard because, well, let's be real. We weren't expecting P10 to be the ultimate result from the likes of Fernando, especially considering that this time yesterday, we were expecting that maybe, just maybe, he might be on the front row. Him breaking off the two McLarens on the Friday. That was absolutely insane. And what was even more insane, I think, will be the reaction between the shareholders, where they were thinking that, oh, we were going to have a double points finish again, and then Lance Stroll puts it in the barriers in a place where, as the commentators were saying, it's never happened before. But we'll get to Lance in a moment. And no, I am not relishing in the misfortune of Lance, but it's just down to the fact, well, Aston Martin were hoping to try and make some progress here, and I'll save it for his own section, so do keep watching. And maybe hype the video, because apparently that's a thing, you can hype things, so hype away, down below. But again, with Fernando, this must be a little bit of a letdown for the hopes of maybe being in the top 5 in qualifying to now propping up the top 10. Okay, it's still within contention of a point at a track where it's really difficult to overtake, but when you look at the cars ahead of him, there's not really a guarantee, unless there's a huge calamity up front, about him sidling his way unless they pull off a blinder in terms of the strategy. So I will say that maybe, yeah, well definitely, Fernando is the start of the meh. And then the next part of the meh are the two Ferraris. I'm being a little bit harsh here, that you might think it's a small little win, that considering they had a really bad Friday, they managed to turn things around and at least get one of their Ferrari drivers on the 3rd row. That's Charles Leclerc in 6th, and then I'm thinking, looking at the results right now, the listings, yeah, Hamilton in P7. Yeah, the little one was impressed too. In reality, this is a little bit of damage limitation, so hey, okay, it's something. It's going to be a decent chunk of points. One of the Mercedes isn't in the top 10, so in terms of the constructors, they can still bag more points collectively than they can with George Russell in 5th. And then you can say that George Russell is in the meh list as well, and you might be thinking, oh, come on, Law, why are you being so harsh toward the Brits? Considering where Mercedes are right now, being 5th is not that terrible. In the earlier sessions, George Russell was looking as a very solid contender for being in P3, or at worst P4. Yeah, I do think come the race tomorrow, he will be able to jump Isaac Hadjar up a P4 or something, because he is a demon at the start. Maybe even be a little bit of a threat for Max Verstappen in 3rd. It remains to be seen. But ultimately, this is probably something that Mercedes were really not wanting to see. That they're behind a Racing Bulls. It's not good for the optics. And you could maybe say that Kimi Antonelli just about squeaks into the meh section. Because yeah, P11, it's not where I really wanted it to be in terms of my prediction for him coming in 5th. For him being in 11th, that's going to be a bit of a tall order unless there's chaos at the front. And I can't keep saying that for every single driver, because otherwise it's just going to become a little bit of a tired and cliched response. Okay, the Mercedes collectively, it's a meh from me. But after the summer break, and the fact that Kimi had a really bad Friday where he lost an entire practice session effectively, to come back and qualify P11, okay, that's fine, I suppose. And it's also fortunate that FP2 and FP3, they all turned out to be dry sessions. In fact, we've not really seen any rain in active Formula 1 sessions the entire weekend, even though the mornings have actually been torrential. It does dry up eventually, so I suppose we lost out in that regard, that we didn't get the calamity and jeopardy of the rain, but oh well. And then in the mess section, I will just about put in Yuki Tsunoda, because, yeah, sure, where the Red Bull is right now, it is really hard to tell whether or not you can guarantee to get into Q3 these days. But I do think Yuki was in contention for Q3 just about, but it came down to within hundredths of the Williams in particular. It was a very, very nail-biting situation for the Japanese driver, but it was competitive. I also saw at one point between 4th and 13th or something within one of the qualifying sessions, it was about 0.2 between 4th and 13th. It's that close, people. It's insane how close it can possibly be here. But in terms of where we can expect this right now, points aren't impossible for Yuki, but he seriously does need more of those. Again, because Liam Lawson, the guy he replaced at Red Bull, qualified in 8th. So this is something I think is tolerable for the driver, but it really needs to improve in my honest opinion. And then, okay, considering where the Sauber is at this track, it doesn't really seem to be setting the world alight, but in comparison to the other midfielders especially, Aston Martin and Racing Bull's really on song this weekend, and Williams pumping in results better than expected. I'll just about put Gabi in there because he did sneak into Q2. He once again out-qualified his teammate, who is a qualifying specialist, may I remind you, or at least he used to be. It's not really come around at Sauber at the moment, but hopefully with Audi it might turn itself around. So qualifying 13th, where it is right now, I think, oh wow, okay, I've just got the timing sheets. It was identical to Yuki Tsunoda. That's crazy. So, okay, well, that's absolutely fine. If I put Yuki Tsunoda in the list, well, Gabi goes in there too, matching a Red Bull. There you go. And then we got the losers, and since I already flirted with the idea earlier in the video, Lance Stroll is right here, because, well, whilst Fernando Alonso was really giving everyone hope that maybe he could pull off something that we saw a couple of years ago, fairly regularly I may add, well, what we got from Lance Stroll were 2 accidents so far this weekend. No, I am not enjoying this whatsoever. I was hoping that maybe Lance Stroll had some sort of momentum, that maybe he's managed to check back in again, with the car being surprisingly good around the Hungarian circuit especially. But unfortunately, he's ended up having 2 crashes, one a really big one into turn 3, the same one that took out Daniel Ricciardo a couple of years ago, and the onboard footage showed that Lance Stroll did not let go of the steering wheel. So has he flared up his hand again? Maybe not in such a spectacular fashion. Then also in Q1, he spins off at turn 13 because he put his tyre on the grass, and when you look at the footage, it's actually quite a while before the curve, so he actually puts it on, and then he takes out a front wing, he takes out the right side of his car, that's him out effectively. And according to some reports, he was in the middle of doing his media pen duties, and he just walked out mid-question from one of the journalists. It was that level of frustration again, while his teammate was able to get something. Yeah, it wasn't the P2 we expected, but, well, he's in the top 10, the Aston Martin of Fernando. Whereas now, when they're both tied, this is really crucial for gaining some sense of kudos. The Canadian ultimately is losing out, and he's going to lose that momentum, and Fernando Alonso is going to overtake him. So that is just something that he simply did not want to have happen to him. And certainly something that they didn't want to happen to them were Haas. Yeah, the Haas operation is certainly a lot more slick than it used to be, but seeing them in 18th and 19th respectively, oh no. That's really, really bad, especially considering where 2 of their midfield rivals are right now. Yeah, Sauber are having a bit of an off day, but Aston Martin with Fernando are doing okay. Racing Bulls, oh, it's going to be spectacular. Even where they are positioned right now, that's going to be 16 points. That's going to leave the gap between Haas and then 8th place. Oh, it's going to be even bigger. That's going to be crazy. But it's just simply down to just not getting out of Q1. It's just something that really is not supposed to happen. And Behrman, once again, bringing down his qualifying average. It's just, I don't know what's going on at Haas, honestly. I don't know whether it's just down to strategy not working out, or just simply the car has not progressed, or it doesn't make any sense because the Silverstone upgrade looked really good. I think maybe it just might have been down to timing, because it can happen. The pit lane is really, really short. The track itself is really, really short. It may have just been down to poor timing. Let me know in the comments now that it's been a few hours since I probably uploaded this video. And oh, breaking news right now. Apparently Max Verstappen has been summoned to the stewards for alleged breach of, driving unnecessarily slow. So I don't know what context this was in at 16:02, so 3:02. So maybe he was driving that little bit too slow. Oh, yeah, well, that's not good. So let me know down in the comments as well about how that turned out. And then Alex Albon, this was really unfortunate for him. The fact is, though, is that Carlos Sainz did beat him in qualifying, and once again, Williams' operational side of things let him down, and it led to the tyres completely giving out on him, as James Vowles said on the radio to Sky Sports. But it was the radio tirade that we heard from Alex, where he was saying, why do we keep doing this to ourselves? And I don't blame him, to be honest, because, well, he's had a lot of things dropped. The balls dropped for him and Carlos many times this year, where things that could happen do happen. And it probably meant that he didn't get out at the right time. He probably over-egged the tyres, and it all just fell apart for him. The bad luck that Carlos has been having is something that Alex has been experiencing right now. Well, mind you, Alex has had a fair share of bad luck because, well, he went out of races with a power unit issue 3 races in a row. So there you go. This wasn't a good time for him. 15th, whereas his teammate is in 9th. Yeah, we're not going to be seeing a double points finish for Williams, I'm afraid. And then the 2 Alpines round things off. Sure, we all thought that Gasly may have pulled out another blinder in getting into Q3, especially since this circuit is not a power circuit. This might have been some hope for Pierre to get into the top 10 and maybe stay there a little bit more easily than he did in Spa. But unfortunately, it was 14th for Pierre, 16th for Franco. Yeah, this was Franco going out in Q1, but the differences between the two men weren't that gargantuan. And in fact, Franco narrowly missed out on Q2 by about a few hundredths or something. The gaps were really, really small. And fundamentally, between the two drivers, it was only by a couple of tenths between the Argentinian and the Frenchman. This car, yeah, the Hatters have turned out to be slower, and they did beat one of the Salvers, so that is some crumb of comfort for Alpine, that they are not the absolute slowest car out there, at least within qualifying. But the chances of them scoring points, I don't think they're going to get any, I'm afraid, because there are simply faster cars out there, I'm afraid. So there you go. That's my raw report. And if you like this, then hype the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all the things you got to do these days. And I'm thinking that you probably might like this video, so go and watch that. I'll be right back.